You are listening to the TV Obsessive podcast, brought to you by TVObsessive.com.
Okay, welcome back to the TV Obsessive Podcast. We're here today for episode 142. As always, I'm Cameron Crane, executive editor for TVObsessive.com, and I'm joined by Ryan Kurtze, writer and contributor for the site. How you doing today, Ryan?
Well, apart from there being no more football for about 7 months, I'm doing okay. I think we just watched
Yeah,
the
we're
last game till August, but that's all right. I am, I think, much more than you am a baseball fan. So now is when spring comes, as it were.
I'm not much of a baseball fan. I can't. I can watch baseball, but the season's so long and there are so many games. Like I only ever end up watching it during the playoffs. You know.
Yeah.
And honestly, I only really end up paying attention when Cleveland has a good team, which is like it's happened a couple times in my life.
Yep. Yep.
Watch the UFL. I don't even know when the UFL starts or if it's happening this year.
Yeah, it's not really been my thing, and my city even has a team, but I can't say I paid much attention to it.
Yeah, I tried to get into it at one point, maybe a couple of years ago, but it seems like the world pays so little attention to it that I
Yeah.
wouldn't even know when games were on or anything. You know what I mean? So like I watched one game and then just totally lost track of when it was on, and I think they shifted the teams now, and I don't know. I do recall when I was a kid. You remember when they did the World League or whatever they called it
Yes,
for
they had a team
football?
in
It was like the
Germany and a
Europe.
team in England. Yeah.
I got into that when I was a kid, and then of course they decided it wasn't profitable enough or whatever, so they got rid of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's February 11th already somehow. We're going to talk about Hijack in the latter part of the pod, as we have been doing. We're up to episode 5 of season 2. But first, we'll talk about some other things we've been watching, what's been in the news. We hit on football already. You watched Super Bowl. Thoughts?
Yeah, I did. For the first time in a long time, actually just quietly watched it at the house. Pretty easy, relaxing night, but pretty miserable game. I think the quality of the commercials have gone tremendously downhill, especially because half of them seemed like they were AI this year, but that didn't stop the NFL from apparently doing huge numbers in here in 2026.
It was striking to me, starting with the commercials. I mean, personally, I don't know. I don't want to seem too judgy or pretentious or anything, but I've always felt like the stuff about Super Bowl commercials is just like I don't know, almost perverse. Like you want to enjoy commercials. Are you trying to enjoy commercials the rest of the year? You know what I mean? Um, which sometimes I do enjoy a commercial. I'm not saying I don't, but the weird way, like there's almost this expectation that like, oh, they're gonna knock our socks off. I'm like, really? Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And they try, and then they this year I did think there were some that were just like notably bad. Like,
Yes, yes.
but my takeaway from the one Dunkin' Donuts commercial was that Dunkin' Donuts has too much money. What are you
They can
doing with
get they got
all
everybody
these
they wanted for
PH
that commercial. Yeah.
stars? Like, how much money did they pay these people to put all that together? I did think it was striking that Amazon Ring did that ad with the dogs, and
Oh,
it seems like it very much like a cell phone kind of thing because I've seen so many people saying like, "Wait, what? Dystopian tech surveillance? No." Um,
Okay,
I
since
thought
you
the
say that
go
brings
ahead.
up a good point. I wanted to mention this, and I completely forgot about it. So, because how did you watch the Super Bowl? On Peacock or on linear, or how did you watch it?
I actually watched it on Peacock. What about you? Was it
Okay.
different?
So I watched also on Peacock because we have Fubo as our cable quote unquote provider, really, is our digital TV provider, and they have a dispute right now with NBC. So Fubo does not have NBC or any Universal channels at the moment. So watch the Peacock. Peacock apparently in different Peacock had different commercials than the NBC linear channel, and there also were some different commercials in different regions. I have noted a couple of places say, and so I had to go search out something. It's also like some discourse about these commercials and had not seen them, so I had no idea what was going on. So apparently there was some weird, you get this on streaming and this on linear, those types of deals.
Oh, that that helps me retroactively make sense of a couple things. There were a couple of times where, like in the group chat or whatever, someone made a comment on a commercial, like it had just aired, and I didn't see it, and I thought I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, yeah, no, there were different
Honestly,
things in different places.
I'm not paying any more attention to the Super Bowl ads than I do during a normal like Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, commercial time. Let's second screen it. I thought the game was actually pretty good. I understand people found it to be boring or whatever. And I was thinking about why though. I have something to say, and apologies to people who don't care about football. But we won't spend too much time on this. It was a low scoring game. It was a defensive game, right?
Hmm.
But it actually was a defensive game. Like those teams, like they were playing good defense.
Yeah,
And at
yeah,
some point, I forget how far it was in the game. I think they were already in the second half. I think it was Collinsworth who noted that there hadn't been any penalty flags.
right, right.
This is why. This is why I'm actually enjoying this game because it's actually like a defensive struggle. Whereas quite often when you get these low scoring games, it's actually really like both offenses are bad, and
Yeah.
there are like lots of penalties and they just can't move the ball. And whereas this, it really did feel more like, okay, it's a defensive struggle, but they're actually defenses playing well more than,
I noted that same thing.
offenses
It,
playing
it it
poorly.
was two good defenses strategically as opposed to yeah, the offense is committing much turnovers or fumble the ball or whatever. So the defenses look like they're just playing immaculate ball. But no, the defenses were set up in a way that knew how to take out the opposing offenses. And with the combination of that and no penalties, it was if you like defense and NFL defense, then yeah, this was the game for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I prefer a shootout. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a progressive. But the ratings apparently were quite good. I mean, a little bit down from the previous year, but that puts it at like the second highest ever. So football
Yeah,
is as
second
popular as it ever
second
has
highest
been, and
ever.
people are watching the game.
You didn't get the Travis Kelce Swifty bump from his team being in it this year. So all things considered, 125 million people and something like 137 million peak and 128 million people at halftime. It's one of the highest numbers ever. So yeah, much ado about nothing with people claiming they were going to tune out the game and tune out halftime.
Right. You want to talk about halftime at all? You watch how'd you like Kid Rock? I'm kidding.
I I have to say I missed that halftime version, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't watch. I didn't watch that thing at all. I did make myself. I watched all of the Bad Bunny. I can't say that I'm a fan of Bad Bunny. But I mean, it was fun. I think there's a meaningful way in which it was kind of like not for me. It's not really my kind of music or whatever. But I did appreciate the halftime show and reading some stuff about it afterwards as well, where he was consulting with historians and stuff like that, and there was really a lot going
Yeah.
on there. I thought it was pretty cool.
In terms of production value, in terms of just the I think attention paid to culture and history, it was I mean pretty amazing. Yeah, yeah. I asked my two kids. Yeah, they like Bad Bunny and they listen to him on Spotify. I didn't know one of the songs, but in terms of the entertainment value, I thought it was quite good.
Right. And we're just like old and out of touch or whatever, right?
That's
Because it's
right.
like the most streamed artist in the world or whatever. And I think he just
Yep.
won a Grammy, and all of that. And so yeah, I mean it was fun. I enjoyed it. Um Also enjoyed the Muppet Show. We were talking about this last week. It was just coming out. Did you have a chance to watch this in the past week?
All right, so this is a point of contention in our house right now. So our kids watched it without us,
Oh
and we're
no.
now we're now angry at them. We're gonna have to come up with some kind of punishment. They're like, we came home one night. We're like, well, we watched the Muppets. It was so good, and like, we had to complain. They had to wait on us. So no, my wife and I are gonna have to watch it on our own now.
Your kids don't want to watch it again?
Well, I think they would if we wanted to. We were mad that they didn't wait for us.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. I did watch it. I thought it was, kind of pitch perfect in terms of what they were up to. It's an episode of The Muppet Show. Sabrina Carpenter's great. the vibes all feel right. It was kind of joyous, and I guess I hope they make more. I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes there so much. Um, Presumably, I mean, I would guess if this is done well, which I think it has, and people want to do
Yeah,
more, that
there's
they
been a lot of
will. But
rumbling, yeah, a lot of rumblings of, okay, if this special does well, then we'll be able to kickstart some more episodes. And to me, it's hard to compare well, you haven't actually had an authentic episode like this in decades. And so sort of the momentum and moment of that singular thing versus, well, we could do 14 of these and everyone would watch them. It's hard to compare that. I certainly would watch them, but yeah, I don't know that that's the best measuring stick of sort of how this one episode did.
yeah, that's true, right? Like if they were putting out a full season weekly or something, would it actually get the sustained audience? Yeah, that is hard to say. I'll just speak honestly for myself. There probably is something to what you're suggesting, right? That the fact that they were making this one Muppet Show special made me
Hmm.
feel compelled to watch it and watch it like as soon as I could, basically, and seeing people talking about it all over the place. Where if it was a more sustained weekly series, then maybe people wouldn't, people probably talk about the first one and then maybe kind of trickle off a bit or what have
Yeah,
you. So
yeah,
that's a fair point. I don't know if there's some middle ground where they do one of these every once in a while.
right.
Um, one approach could be to pin it to holidays or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's striking. This one isn't at all. It's just like an episode of the Muppet Show, right? Like there's no special occasion or anything. It was just, hey, we've made a new episode of the Muppet Show. So I did enjoy it though. I did enjoy it.
Good, good. Well, I'll definitely be checking it out this weekend.
And for what it's worth, I'm also not really a Sabrina Carpenter fan. You know,
Yeah.
it was one of like she sang a song and it's like, have I heard this song before? Not positive that I've heard the song before. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
reading about it, I think it's like one of her biggest hit songs. You know what I mean? Like maybe I've heard it before. I didn't know it was her and whatever. But that is just to I think at this point acknowledge that I guess I'm a middle-aged man.
Yeah.
I'm
These things are not for us, unfortunately.
no longer a youth. Um, no, I'm not as old though as Mel Brooks, who's twice as old as us. I did take the time to watch the two-part docu-series that HBO put out, got Epitaph, on Mel Brooks, called Mel Brooks, a 99-year-old man. I enjoyed it immensely. Highly recommend it.
Oh, I
You had
cannot wait. I
time?
literally cannot wait to watch this.
It was really good. I mean, it's like two episodes. Each one's like 2 hours long. So it's almost one of those things like they didn't want to put out a 4 hour film, so they cut it in half. And I can't even quite recall exactly where they cut it in half because I immediately started the second one after I finished the first one. Um, but just, really fascinating stuff going back to his childhood. I mean, thinking about how much life he has lived, that's one of the things that landed for me, talking about, you know, growing up in Brooklyn and then going to World War II, you know,
Yeah,
and then coming home from World War II and starting a career in comedy and talking about those early days with Sid Caesar and stuff like that.
yeah,
There's a good amount about his relationship with Carl Reiner, um, right, where of course the title of the documentary is playing on their famous bit, the 2,000-year-old man. People are familiar with that. And then I mean, as you would expect, it just goes through his career. But there's so much of it, and I guess one thing that was striking to me is that he's still alive, and so in documentaries like this, they have interviews with various people, and they have interviews with Mel Brooks. He's talking
wow,
about his
yeah,
life, but then also other people, some of whom have passed. Rob Reiner, um, David Lynch. We mentioned that before that they were going to be in it.
yeah,
Um, and then there's also stuff about Carl Reiner, and I don't know. Anyway, I highly enjoyed it, and I do really recommend
yeah.
check it out. Yeah,
No,
I
that's
know for a
great.
couple of
I
reasons.
saw pictures this week of Mel Brooks who was at the on the last day of shooting for the Spaceballs sequel. There he was with everybody. I mean, it's just incredible that he's still doing this.
This is funny because I had, with History of the World, I kind of always thought that the idea of a part two was a joke. But I guess that's not quite the case. He just like never got to make it, and so they did
Yeah.
that series a couple years ago. And with Spaceballs, if you recall, the joke in Spaceballs is like maybe we'll meet again in Spaceballs 2, the search for more money.
That's right.
And one of the things that comes out, and I didn't know this, and apologies if this feels at all like a spoiler, the documentary. Um, but apparently, part of the thing with Spaceballs is that George Lucas signed off on it, because it's like a Star Wars parody, and said that's fine,
Yeah.
but you can't do merchandising.
Mm.
So, like, they put these jokes in the film about merchandising and so on, if you recall Spaceballs. But there
Yeah.
was this aspect where, yeah, the film became very popular, and of course, it would have made sense to make merchandise, but they have like contractually agreed not to do that, you know.
Yeah.
So I think in some way they're making Spaceballs too. Um, I think he's creatively inspired. I don't know. They don't really talk about this that much in the documentary, but what is there is the level at which it feels like a cash grab. Because Mel Brooks
Mm.
says at one point, he's like, "Yeah, I told George Lucas we wouldn't do merchandising, but that's an old contract. I don't, I don't, I don't think that holds anymore." So, but
Oh, legend. He's a legend.
absolutely, absolutely, 99 years old. Um, I caught up on Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I know you've been writing on it week to week. I don't think I'd mentioned to you that I did fall behind a little bit at one point. But I caught up this past week, and really, personally, I'm really enjoying it at this point.
Yeah.
It like by the time I got to episode 2 or 3, it really grabbed me. I'm in. It's just such a nice, low stakes show, but I find it to be really charming. I think I saw someone call it adorable.
Mm.
Yes, and I just like it a lot. And I finished this past week's episode and was kind of upset that I had to wait a week for the next one.
Yeah, you have to actually wait about 9 days because they dropped that episode early for
Right.
to not compete with the Super Bowl. But I'm glad to hear that opinion because that's been I think the consensus among people that I have talked to. I have a lot of Game of Thrones group chats and people I talked to that are involved in the show, and several of them were not interested going in, knowing that this is not battles and dragons and the mystical things and some of the more adventurous things that the other shows have been about. But everyone that I've talked to has just had that exact same opinion. And there's a lot to be said for, I think George R. R. Martin has said several times that Sir Duncan the Tall is his favorite character to write, the favorite character he's ever created. So there's a lot of depth to that and a lot of story behind it when you remove some of those fantastical elements. So just for those that have not checked it out yet, I really, if that's at all your bag, I really do encourage it. And you may have seen this news. The episode this week is one of the three highest rated episodes of any Game of Thrones property ever. I think it's like Battle of the Bastards, Reigns of Castamere, and this past week's episode, which people are just absolutely in love with.
Oh wow, yeah, it was really good. And I would say to anyone listening who hasn't checked this show out, if you are at all interested, like you watched Game of Thrones and enjoyed it, except for the end, but put that aside.
Yeah.
Um, I think it would be a really good time to catch up, personally, because
Mhm.
I believe it's 6 episodes in this season. Is that right, Ryan?
Yes, we are already two-thirds of the way done.
So, but it's one of those things where it does feel really set up to where episode 5, the penultimate episode of the season, is like that's where it's going down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, it's really set up to where like that's going to be the climax of the season. Which I recall often being the case with Game of Thrones, where it was like
Yes.
this,
Yes.
not the finale, but the one right before it, the penultimate one. You're like, oh man, yeah, I think that it's set up to have that kind of structure. I could be wrong, you know what I mean? I haven't seen the last 2 episodes of the season or anything like that. Um, but for those who
No,
are caught up,
I
you know
think
what I
your
mean,
your
right?
intuition,
It's like
yeah, your intuition is absolutely correct. I received in my email the episode 5 today. So that is what I'm going to be doing tonight. It is jumping ahead of the line of everything else, so I can watch it tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah. And everyone, if you are watching the show, do check out Ryan's recaps on TVObscast.com. Doing good work there. And each one will be out basically right after the episode airs. So, okay. Some other news. Hit the sad news. We just saw a couple hours ago, at most, maybe. Um, Given when we're recording, James Vanderbeek passed away, cancer. Um, this is sad. He's only 48 years old, so a little bit older than us. Maybe that's part of why it lands for me. Personally, I was never like a huge fan of Dawson's Creek, but it's still like I'm surprised how much this kind of hit me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Ryan?
I think a lot of reasons. James Vanderbeek is just a year or two older than you and I are. This show was the cultural phenomenon, probably when you and I were in late high school,
Yeah.
early college. I think I've told you this before. For my high school newspaper, I wrote a piece on why Dawson's Creek was like destroying the moral fabric of our society because, it was Pacey slept with his teacher or whatever it was, just some dumb kid writing about, something he thought was important at the time. But now I look back on it and think, yeah, just how important that was culturally. And James Vanderbeek has just, yeah, been in my life and one way or the other since I was a teenager. And this did hit me, I think, harder than I thought it would.
Yeah, I mean, of course, he's also in some other things. We call the film Varsity Blues. He's done some stuff more recently as well. Like I read he was in Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, I think, and a few other places where he's popped up. Um, yeah, I don't know. Just it is sad, as you say. Dawson's Creek was hugely popular when we were young, and I mean, I think that's probably is a large part of it. Even though I never really got into the show, I wasn't really a fan of the show. I
Yeah.
wasn't like you writing some article about its moral degeneracy or something. I was like, I was the kind of 18, 19-year-old who was like looking down my nose at this soap operatic trash. I'm
Yeah.
like, watch some David Lynch or something.
Well, now
I've actually mellowed a bit as I've gotten older in terms of being
how I
judgmental
long for
like
the
that.
days where the things that we were worried about were, on TV, there was a student sleeping with his teacher. That was a thing to get ourselves worked up about.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, R.I.P. James Vanderbeek. Um, Hard to segue from that sort of thing, but we do have a couple more news items. More casting news for the White Lotus. I guess this is one of our beats now, all right?
Well, I mean, they just keep sort of dripping this news out, and we get something every week. And now we get the legendary Sandra Barnard is going to be on White Lotus.
Yeah, and that should be good. Personally, the most recent thing that I've seen her in was season 2 of Severance, where I thought she was quite good. I mean, long storied career, though, really. And I'm curious to see what she's like in the White Lotus universe, as it were. I don't find it terribly hard to imagine what she'll be like in the White Lotus universe. I could be wrong. I could go another direction with it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. No, this is, and I think I looked, there was an article on another site that broke down the 8 or 9 people they've announced already. This frankly can't be it. There's going to be more. But I think we're getting bigger and bigger names now as we get closer and closer to, I guess, them starting production on this season. Helena Bonham Carter last week, and now Sandra Bernhard this week. So yeah, the mix of people coming together is quite interesting.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see too. I don't know if there'll be any connections with previous seasons or anything like that. It's always been a little indirect when they've done that, but
Yeah.
there have been some things, so that's something to keep an eye on as well. No, I don't think we have any indication as of yet about when we're going to get this next season of White Lotus.
No.
I'd guess early next year.
Yeah, that's my guess as well. So they've done spring into early summer 2027 would be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's sooner, but a lot of these things, I didn't put this in our show notes or anything, but You might have seen this as well this week, where there was some news item, not of much significance, where Vince Gilligan was like, "Yeah, we're working on Pluribus season 2," but it was like we're getting the writers' room together. It's like, really,
Yeah.
just now? You haven't even
Yeah.
started writing it yet? Like, I wish we could be like the Pit, but we're not. I'm like, okay, man, yeah, it'll be another year and a half at least before we get more of
Yeah,
that show.
exactly.
Um, I mean, it's okay, but at the same time, it's like, man, come on. Um, let's see. Coming up relatively soon to I don't know, is this HBO or HBO Max? I guess it's HBO. Rooster with Steve Carell. You put this in our show notes. I did watch the trailer, but I'll let you start. Thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it was interesting because this I just do not remember this being on my radar at all. Before I saw the piece and saw this trailer with about Steve Carell, who I guess is an author who goes to work on a college campus to, in some ways, help his daughter who's been caught up in some sort of nasty relationship issue. I think the trailer looks quite good, and apparently there was a bidding war for this, and it went straight to series after HBO acquired it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just sort of put this note in here. You and I both work for colleges. We're familiar with that. I kind of got burned by. I remember when I wrote about Lucky Hank with Bob
Mm-hmm.
Odenkirk. I thought that would take off much more than it did. So just sort of curious how for this sort of comedic endeavor they have here for this show called Rooster, how it will catch on. But it certainly has got the right name and the right network to do so.
Yeah, I think you and I both enjoyed Lucky Hank, as I recall, but it only got that one season. I'd even go so far as to say it's still worth watching. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I wish they'd made more of it, but that one season I did think was good. Yeah, it is a question. To what degree? Well, look, this could go in either direction, right? Because part of what I think we both enjoyed about Lucky Hank was what a good job it did of presenting what academia is actually like,
Right.
right? There's a risk in the other direction as well, and I have no idea what Rooster will be like,
Yeah.
but it's possible that it could feel sort of unrealistic
That's
to
right.
people who
Yeah.
have experience, working in a college, department and all of that kind of stuff. Um, excuse me. That could be the case, and it could still be good. So I mean, what is this show about? Maybe part of the issue with Lucky Hank was how much it kind of was about those um, departmental politics, as I recall, right? This seems to be more about, I don't know, Steve Carell's character, his daughter, the way in which then he becomes sort of popular on campus, and
Yeah.
college students are comparing him to the character in the books that he's written, which seems like a kind of
Yeah.
action detective noir. I don't know what exactly. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it it strikes me as something that feels like it's worth checking out. It had been on my radar a little bit, just because of HBO, Steve Carell, you know. But watching the trailer, yeah, I might have to check this one out when it comes out in March.
Yeah. Looks quite good. And like I said, it wasn't sort of near my consciousness when I heard about this, but we are getting it soon here, within the next month or so.
Yeah, something that is, one of these very early stages things that I guess is going to happen sometime down the line that caught my eye. From A24, Glenn Powell in a producer role, and the writer, man, I meant to put this in our notes. The guy who wrote The Long Walk,
Oh yeah. JT Mulner.
J.T. Muller, yeah, that they're going to work on a TV series adaptation of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Thoughts about that, Ryan? I have thoughts, but what do you think?
My house and my well, I'll speak for a lot of people in my state, always appreciate a new well done adaptation of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's been some poor quality stuff over the years, but I don't want to say that Texas sort of claims this as one of its iconic pieces
It's a weird thing to
of
be proud of.
yeah, of culture, but man, I sure do enjoy it and be happy to see a good revision of this.
Yeah, I've got some mixed feelings, and well, I don't know if that's the right way to put it even. So one thing that stood out to me, and the reason why I meant to make a note of JT Molnar's name, is that one of the quotes in this Hollywood Reporter article that I put in our notes, where he says that he has no interest in adapting a perfect film, and The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a perfect film.
Mm,
I agree, right? Um, but so if there's some idea for this series to make a TV series, you know,
yeah.
it's not a new adaptation of the film directly or whatever. I'm curious what his idea is, right? Because I very much agree that the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a perfect film
Hmm.
to the extent that I have not seen anything else.
Interesting. Okay.
But because it doesn't look right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, from what I've heard, the first sequel is like really nuts, and that kind of intrigues me to maybe check it out at some point. But then I know they made various remakes and all of that, and nothing, just from what I've seen, whether be it trailers or snippets or whatever, it feels like it's not getting the tone of the original film, which was part of what made it so striking to me. How the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is sort of small and quiet and low
Hmm.
budget. You know what I mean? And like all of that to me feeds into what makes it such a good film.
Yeah.
So to take the idea and gloss it all up and, um, add a whole bunch of musical notes or whatever. I don't know what they did in some of these adaptations because I haven't seen them, but that sort of turns me off. So I don't know. I'm weirdly intrigued by the idea of a TV series, and also, I have the same feelings that I was just expressing about the other stuff that's out there. So,
Yeah,
um,
I think my impressions are largely in sync with what yours are. I'll be interested in sort of further exploration if it's done right in terms of this story elaborated or embellished in a way that these talented writers and producers can do. Yeah, these things that try to gloss up or do better production value of almost shot for shot of the original movie. It's like you're completely missing the point when you do this stuff, and you just to it's weird to say trying to make that movie better, even a way you sort of bastardized it into a way that's just not at all what the original was supposed to be. And so yeah, that's the original only for me as well.
right. So that's why the quote stood out to me, right? So if the creative force behind this TV series
Yeah,
is sort of in agreement that that film is perfect, well then, okay, what's he going to do with the TV series? I'm kind of intrigued, as
exactly.
opposed to someone coming in and saying, we're going to take the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and polish it up, to make it
Yeah.
glossy or something. So I don't know, something to keep an eye out for. I think it's very early stages. Um, Presumably it's going to happen. I think I mentioned Glenn Powell. It sounds like Glenn Powell is just in a producer role here, so I wouldn't
Yeah.
expect him to be in the series or anything like that. But Glenn Powell behind the scenes, if
Maybe Glenn
A24 is,
Powell's maybe he's the Texas consultant, making sure he gets the Texas vibes down.
yeah, who knows exactly. It's always hard to say with some of those things, like that credit. If someone's credited as executive producer or something like this, there's such a variety of things that it could mean. You know,
Yeah.
they could be like the main creative force behind the thing, or they could be someone who threw in some money in exchange for getting their name in the credits. It's like
Yeah.
this whole spectrum of like the person who does a ton, the person who does virtually nothing. And to tie it back around, that was one thing I did think was really interesting about the Mel Brooks documentary, that there are various things where he was in the role as producer and took a back seat, like with The Elephant Man and some of these other films.
Mm.
Um, and like apparently he was actually really pretty involved with The Elephant Man, but like disassociated himself from it, took his name off of it because he didn't want it to be tarnished by like the Mel Brooks brand.
Yes, yes, okay.
Anyhow, sorry if I'm Sorry to keep spoiling things in that documentary. It feels like that to people at all. Go watch it. Go watch it. All right then. So I think that about does it. You ready to talk about Hijack?
Yes, I am.
All right, we're up to season 2, episode 5, Outage. Spoilers will be on the table here for everything in Hijack through season 2, episode 5. We'll put a little bit of music in here and be back with you in just about 10 seconds.
Okay, we're back to talk about Hijack, Season 2, Episode 5 on Apple TV. This episode titled Outage, written by Amir Kinney and Chris Dunlop, and directed by Sean James Grant. Episode 5 begins with the passengers' frustration on the train beginning to boil over. A group of passengers stages a mutiny to try to disable Sam and take control of the train. During a brief power outage in the carriage, they tackle and restrain him, and eventually tie him to a pole, searching his pockets. What they find are keys to the driver's cab to reach Otto, the train operator, intending to force the train to stop. Despite Sam's desperate warnings that leaving the train will force bombs to explode, the passengers initially remain unconvinced. But things begin to shift when Sam notices a remote control fly out of Jess's bag. Jess reveals the device is not a detonator, but a timer. To prevent the 8 bombs from exploding, she must re-enter specific codes every 15 minutes for each car. After the passengers steal the timer from her, Jess relents and provides the passengers with the codes. However, the clock runs out for the final car on the train. Sam tries to get everyone to evacuate, but the episode ends with a last car exploding. Outside of the train, Daniel interrogates Stuart Atherton, the lead hijacker from season 1, who is currently in custody. They attempt to gain information regarding Cheapside Firm and the plan to use Sam to liberate John Bailey Brown. Detective Zoran uses evidence to track Sam's pre-hijacking meetings to a pub where a, quote, officer-type British man was often present. And lastly, Marcia continues to be watched by the couple, Gold and Mansell, who seem to be involved in the hijacking plot, and they make their way into her house near the end of the episode. So we're left with things to be worried about with Marcia. We're left with things to be worried about with Sam because the train parts of the train have exploded, although presumably he will be fine. We are slowly uncovering the layers and the people involved in this. Interesting to see Stuart Atherton come back, who's in prison, but don't know what his level of involvement is. Thoughts on this episode 5 of 8 of Hijack?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely entertaining. Um, it always it's kind of like, okay, well, now what? Um, I think this season as a whole feels a bit weaker to me than season 1 did, unfortunately. But I am entertained enough, and we'll talk it through. How did this one land for you?
Yeah, not as good for me as episode 4. It just seemed to be a lot of talking on the train that spun wheels to get to a certain point that, okay, we kind of knew this already. It's always harder when us as an audience is way, way, way ahead of the characters in the show, which is what happened in
Yeah,
this. I think it's not a long stretch to say that none of our main characters are going to have died in this explosion in the last car on the train. So I have had some of the about the quality of this season. I do wonder, which is how I think you and I both consume most of the first season. Will this be better as if I just binged it? And I'm not so sure that's the case at this point.
yeah, maybe if we were binging it, we wouldn't be, critically analyzing it as much. But
Yeah.
that's particularly coming from me, that's a pretty negative thing to say because it's like you'd enjoy the show more if you thought about it less. That's almost like the most critical I could be.
Yeah.
But I think there is a level to that where the fact that we've been kind of digging into it and thinking it through, we are really kind of ahead of where the show is in figuring some of this stuff out. And I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
kind of hope with some of the stuff that we'll get to today in terms of thinking about what's going to happen next, I kind of hope that we end up being wrong or that I end up being wrong about some of this more than I have been
Yeah.
so far, I guess. I want to be more surprised.
I think, yeah, in terms of being surprised, I think that's been a big component that I find missing from this season. There were reveals of people who ended up being on the plane in season one that we didn't realize were involved in this. There are reveals of people that suddenly just out of nowhere sort of took over in some of the plots that we weren't used to or weren't prepared for. Um, I guess we've had a little bit of that with Jess. So I'm not exactly sure what this other, I guess, more elderly lady on the train is doing, her and her husband, what role they play. Not exactly sure what role Faber plays. He seemed to be front and center in the first few, and now less prominent in these last couple. I think there's still things to come, but is it as engaging as maybe the surprise or the twist in season one? I can't say for me that they have been.
Right. I mean, sort of on the train itself is maybe something of the issue there. We've with learning that Jess is working with the hijackers or whatever. That happened in a pretty straightforward way, and it was just like, okay, now we
Yeah.
know that. And then in this episode, well, everyone else on the train figures it out as well, and so on. One thing I guess I do think is interesting there is that they've really messed things up. As you said, I don't think any of the characters we know are going to die in that explosion.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, like it's possible some more minor character will end up having died or something, but I almost don't even know why they would do
Yeah.
that. If they did all manage to get out of that last car and all the people are safe, is the damage somehow just to that last car? I don't know if that's super plausible. If so, but I find myself guessing that's what they're going to do. They're like, oh well, damn it, well at least it was just that one car, and the rest of the train is fine. Like or um, are they going to spend time worrying about detaching the destroyed car from the other ones, or
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, none of that's interesting. That's not what I was referring to. But how look, I don't know that I buy that the German authorities were going to like deliver John Bailey Brown over to Sam. But that convoy was on the way. And because
Yeah.
of what happens in this episode, and because of the passenger mutiny, if we want to call it that, then this has gotten messed up. They can see the train stopped now twice, right? They call off the convoy
Hmm.
before even the explosion occurs, right? Um, Now that bomb has gone off. How do the German authorities react to that? And also, how do the like I want to say hijackers, but what I mean are whoever's really behind it. However, I don't know how to refer to them for sure because we don't know exactly who it is, right?
Yeah.
Um, the masterminds of the plan. How do they react to it?
Yeah.
And how Sam and now arguably Jess as well have messed things up. So with all that in mind, it really has kind of shaken up the story and where it's at. So I am really curious to see what they do with that. I guess if nothing else.
Yeah, and maybe that's the one big reveal that is still yet to come over three episodes is it can't be, well, we don't think it can be John Bailey Brown. It's not, say, Stuart Atherton. It's not Jess. It's not Sam. So who is the person for pulling the levers in all of this? Have we seen them? Do we know them? Is it something where they are, we're going to get a double cross at some point? I think that's likely based on
Yeah.
type of show that we're watching, but at what layer that is, I'm not sure, and what would be the motivation for them doing that. So yeah, that's I think the big thing still to be revealed is someone is in charge of all this, but it doesn't seem to be the people that we know yet.
Right. In season one, they did kind of introduce John Bailey Brown and the other guy. What was his name? Edgar or something, I think,
Yeah, yeah,
who ended up dying relatively late in, right? So that is a possibility that they're going to say, oh, well, here's who's behind it, here's the story, and we get introduced to new characters. Um, or maybe not this time. I continue to speculate that it's not a matter of freeing John Bailey Brown,
Mm.
but something else, you know, um, like killing him because he's double crossed the Cheapside firm, but now he's in custody or something like that. I don't know though. What did you think of the whole thing with Daniel going to talk to Stewart in prison? Because on one level, to me, it was like, okay, well, it makes sense that you would do that. But on another level, I don't think we got anything out of it whatsoever. Did
Yeah,
we?
it did seem like it was just oh, we're just going to reintroduce a character that you remember from season one that was vitally important, but he's been locked up for 2 years. And yeah, we have plenty of, I think, examples from movies and television shows where, you know, the boss is still a boss, even though he's behind bars and he's pulling the strings and all these things. But that did not give me the impression. See, Adderton says he was just went on that plane to die. He's not the one in charge of these things, so we didn't really get anything out of him.
Right. And I was hoping for at least some kind of clue or something. Like, why are
Yeah.
these scenes in the show? And maybe we're not quite done with that. Maybe something will come out of it. But at least in this episode, I found myself thinking, okay, well, Stewart says he doesn't know anything. Their intention was for him to die on that plane. He didn't. Now he's in prison. They're not keeping him in the loop. And as he said all those things, I was like, okay, I believe you, right? I mean, why would he have any insider information at this point when he's
Yeah.
in prison, you know? Um, unless somehow there's a big twist where he's the one who's behind what's going on now with the hijacking on the plane or something. Not the train. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, to get revenge or something like that, unless they're going in that sort of direction or some other kind of clue trickles out of this, I kind of don't even know why the scene's there other than to, I don't know, almost like fan service from season one or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, exactly. That's what I thought of too. I didn't get the impression that Adderton is like management level in the Cheapside firm, and they're making sort of some special concessions for him to do things that he wants to do while he's behind bars. So yeah, not real sure what we got, but maybe it was introduced for a device where we can get something out of him later or something. I mean, I think it's hard to tell at this point.
Yeah. I just hope it goes somewhere because
Yeah.
if you think about it, not much has progressed very much, you know? Like we could also talk about Marcia. Okay, well, she's out there in the middle of nowhere. She's being threatened. We know she's being threatened. Sam knows she's being threatened. That couple kind of presents itself from the beginning in a way that feels like a threat.
Hmm.
Then they pull the twist on us with Daniel's friend, and at first we think maybe he was really the threat. And then we find out it was Daniel's friend, and then the couple kills him, and then now the couple, or at least the woman in particular, is worried that Marsha's onto them, which I think she sort of is. Like she heard the beep beep when they were, messing with the car or whatever,
Yeah.
and so they've gone to the house and asked for a bandage or whatever. Now they're in the house. Okay, but that hasn't really gone anywhere. We're still in like the same place of Marsha's being
Exactly.
threatened, right? And other things as well. The hijacking on the train. Okay, you have the demand for John Bailey Brown. I guess things have changed a bit with this episode and the explosion and stuff like that. Um, but I don't feel like we know a lot more than we did before or anything like
Yeah.
that. So I'm trying not to complain too much, but eh, it's,
On the Marsha front, I am one thing I'm actually hopeful for. I don't know that we've seen necessarily a lot of her home at this point. I hope this is a situation where like she and Sam have, I don't know, she has some sort of training or they've rigged that house or something. And, these two people are walking in thinking that they're going to take her hostage, but this is going to turn into like no, I'm going to turn this back around on you situation where Marsha's actually becomes the one in charge and something happens to these two thugs that have been following her. I would love to see that kind of twist. But I don't have any reason to believe that. I'll have the reason to believe that she's in hiding and mourning because of what's happened in the past and because of her son. But I would like to see something like that happen. No, we have another player sort of in the on the board for Sam's side, that kind of thing.
yeah, that would be cool, but is it really in character if
Yeah.
you know, she's onto them and pushes a button and a shotgun, falls out of the wall. I don't know. I don't know if that would quite feel right, but hopefully like something happens. I mean, what could happen? Like if she does turn the tables on them, I guess that could be something that happens.
Yeah, yeah,
Unfortunately, the other thing would be like if they kill her, but
yeah.
I don't think that they will, at least not soon. In part because I don't think they're supposed to. You know what I mean? At least not yet, or whatever.
I mean, they're
That's
clearly
a
monitoring her for leverage against Sam, right? If Sam goes off tracks, no pun intended, then they can say, "Look, we've got Marcia. She is dead unless you do what we want," right?
Yeah. I mean, it feels like that's what they've already done. Again, though,
Yeah.
we know from season one, more or less, that their general operating procedure is to kill the family anyway,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And Sam knows that, I think. I suppose if you're in this situation, you would still hold out hope that somehow that's not going to be the case this time, and the coercion would still work. I mean, I guess that's
Yeah.
plausible. Um, do you think that Jess is being coerced as well?
I at this point, I do. Yes. She
Yeah.
seems skittish enough and reluctant enough, and that's again to use your words, the operating procedure of this show and of this group is to coerce people into doing this, and putting their own people in harm's way. So I think she probably is.
Yeah, me too. Although there's a question, how do you interpret how this goes down, right? So you noted on our show sheet the delay between the time running out and the bomb going off. Yeah, that's worth thinking about. But also with the entering of the codes, was it what do you think they were just too late or did she give the wrong number?
I thinking that I believe she is coerced and she is being forced into doing this. I think it's a situation where it seemed like she was giving the right numbers. They were too late, but she's not holding an automatic timer detonator where, where this is not, you know, lost without going into spoilers, where you enter in the numbers by a certain amount of time and things are gonna to go, start going really, really bad. The people who are coercing her notice that the numbers don't go in, so then they have to decide, okay, are we going to blow this thing or not? And they do. Sort of that's where the hesitation might come from, as opposed to just, oh, there's a minute delay between when this detonator runs out of time and when it goes off.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're thinking that there's something in the middle here where um, the masterminds or whatever we call them actually hit a button to blow up that train car, and that's the reason there was a delay. Am I
Yeah,
understanding what you
like
said right?
why would you put people that you can't predict their, what they're going to do or what their motivations are, or what, how they will stick to the plan. Why would you put them in charge of the bombs when you can be in charge of the bombs?
Yeah, that's interesting. So maybe that's right. Which would mean, so her job is to enter those numbers, but you're suggesting she's actually entering those numbers into some kind of system where then the masterminds, I guess I've settled on that term. If they see that the numbers have been entered, so like, okay,
Yeah.
we're still okay. And by not getting that last number in on time, that then they decided to blow up a train car.
Yeah, I mean that could be, and this would all
It's an interesting
depend on
possibility.
them being able to monitor what's going on in there and knowing what's happening. So I'm not saying that it's plausible. It's just I think a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's plausible in like a real world, realistic sense or
Yeah.
whatever, but in terms of the plot, perhaps that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. Um, I've been thinking more that the people behind this would be upset about the fact that she messed up and
Yeah.
ended up blowing up part of the train when she wasn't supposed to, and it wasn't part of the plan. So I don't know. Given that, it seems like we should kind of find out one way or another pretty soon, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there someone else on the train that they're controlling? I feel like there has to be. Um,
Yes, I think so. I think so.
at this point, I don't really think it's the older woman we've talked about. I think that she's just kind of maybe been a little bit misguided in trying to
Yeah,
help. Like
yeah,
she's I don't know, I don't know if they've told us anything like this, but she's a former cop or something, and is
yeah,
just sticking her nose
yeah.
in. That's how I'm reading her. So I think someone else is probably going to be involved there, and we'll see. The other big thing that I wanted to talk about, and maybe there's some space for speculation. You mentioned in your summary, Zoran goes to the pub where he found the coaster that Sam left in the vending machine. We presumed
Hmm.
that was going to happen, right? And the guy there tells him that he saw Sam meeting with some, you know, officer type British guy or whatever,
Yeah.
however he puts it exactly. I found myself immediately wondering if that was Faber, but maybe it's just because I struggle to think of others in the story who kind of fit that description. But maybe there's something interesting to think about there. We do see Faber in this episode meeting with Olivia, and she brings him the files that Sam had submitted and all of that. And
Hmm.
Faber says, like he doesn't believe Sam's really behind this, and they'd scrub the CCTV, and where did Sam get this photo and all of that. And I guess I'm just I feel like there's a little bit of a puzzle here that I haven't cracked. What is Faber really up to, and who did Sam meet with in the pub? Thoughts about all of that?
Yeah, my sort of galaxy brained prediction is that Faber is the one sort of behind all of this, in so much as they really want to extradite John Bailey Brown, but there's been some reluctance or something that's held that up from this, and so they have sort of staged this thing to get possession of him, or Faber is now part of this firm, and so that he doesn't get extradited, he set this thing up to do this. I have no evidence to base that off of, other than just Faber sort of disappeared for a couple episodes, and now he's back trying to investigate the evidence here. And why would he and Sam potentially have met in this pub beforehand? To your point, there are really no officer type British folks that we've met yet. I don't think it's Daniel. I don't think it's anybody else that we're familiar with in London. So hey, why not at this point?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just suspicious of Faber. I don't know. I don't know if it's the Toby Jones of it all or if that's feeding into it. But you cast the actor for a reason. I just
Yeah,
I don't take what he says at face value, I guess, but um, I'm not sure what his plan could be if he is lying. Follow me there, right?
yeah,
Like I don't quite buy it if he's being honest that what they wanted to do was just extradite John Bailey Brown and all of that. We've talked about this before. What's the holdup? Why are you holding him in the safe house for weeks and weeks or however long it is?
right.
Why haven't you extradited him back to the UK already? He's a fugitive. So something there isn't really holding up for me. The idea of wiping the CCTV so no one else would know he's in Germany, little suspicious of that as well. Again, the best I
Yep.
can do is to wonder if somehow the plan is for him to testify against other people, and so they don't know what those other people to know where he is at all, and that's why they're holding him in Germany or something. Like maybe this could
Yeah.
hold up. If we follow that, then it is a big question of, well, where did Sam even get that shot from the CCTV and
Yeah.
so on.
From one of
But
the only people that knows it exists, right? That would be Faber.
yeah, but Faber's the one sitting here saying like, I believe Sam and
Yeah.
I want to figure out how he got this photo. So it does kind of feel one way or the other. There has to be someone else.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
who did Sam meet with in the pub? Again, I suppose it doesn't have to be someone we already know.
Right. Right.
We'll see, I guess. But it does seem clear that he was trying to leave some clues. Um, I feel like given what's happened in this episode, it's almost to the point where he almost has to tell the German authorities that he's not really in control,
Yeah, I would think so.
you know. But I don't know if he quite can or he's too worried about that. At the same time, he did get that USB drive out, and that's discovered. We didn't mention that.
That's right. Yeah.
Baby's mom, sister, or whatever, does find the USB drive. So presumably they'll give that to the authorities. Maybe they'll start piecing things together, or what have you. So 3 episodes left, and I feel like that's how it's going to come to a head ultimately, where we're going to be back in the space of Sam is the good guy and the authorities sort of knowing that he's the good guy, and how do they get these people out of the situation
Yeah.
that they're all trapped in on this train with the bombs and so on.
Seems like a lot of time left. But I don't know. We could have some slow progression like we did this episode. But yeah, it's 3 episodes that are about 40 to 45 minutes each. Seems like a lot, but we'll see.
Well, and I mean, also, I don't know if you noticed, this episode was only 39 minutes, and that includes the credits.
That's right. That's
So
right.
I'm not sure what the runtime was on the episode before the credits, but under 40 minutes. So I haven't checked on the episodes to come on that, but maybe they're drawing it out a little bit. Maybe they thought it was weird to only have 7 episodes in season 1, so we've got 8 in season 2. But we'll see. If nothing else, I definitely am really curious to see where this is going, how it comes to a head, how it concludes, all of that. I am entertained by the show, so we've got that going for us.
Yep. Yeah. No, 3 more to go. Next week, episode 6, titled Junction. Yeah, we'll be out Tuesday night, the 17th.
Yeah, we'll be back then. I guess anything else you wanted to say about episode 5?
I think that's it for me.
All right, me too. Okay, thanks as always for listening to the podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If so, please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Really appreciate it. Check out TVObscast.com. Find written work on all sorts of TV shows, past, present, and into the future. If you want to follow us on social media, if you search for TV Obsessive, you should find us. And as for the podcast, we'll be back with you next week.
All right. Looking forward to that, and we will see you then.